It's Dr. G, back, possibly our final set of Q&A asynchronous dialogue for week 1 of creating social media presence and cultural movements. We're in the middle of some questions from Megan. And I'm going to continue. We're going to look at Lee Potter's Interviewing for Journalists, Chapter 2. I love the analogy of interviewing as compared to learning to drive a car. Page 19. Driving a car is so second nature for me, but this quote reminded me of how challenging it was at first and how much goes into doing it successfully. Just like driving a car, things can go wrong in an interview, and I'm curious what insurance that an interviewer can have on hand to set right an interview that has gone off the road, so to speak. All right, so clever wording here. What kind of insurance can we have as interviewers? I love it. We're tackling ethics, and we're also tackling quality control. All right, here's the response. I said training. All right, training gives, just like driver's school, right? Training. I mean, this is not why one just walks into a newspaper and is like, I want to be a beat reporter, see? Right? You get a mass communication degree or something equivalent, all right? You sort of gain experience. You gain knowledge and information in addition to experience to help credential you. But training alone doesn't help us, doesn't fully equip us with that insurance you speak of. So also experience. Experience. Like say, repeating an exercise multiple times, right? Simulating real world encounters. That kind of experience, perhaps. Where could we gain some insights into that type of first-hand training? Reputation over time is the next thing I would add. Reputation. This is what, once you establish a reputation, you have to upkeep it, right? And not just the reputation of you as an interviewee, right? As a communicator, a professional communicator, possibly a journalist, but the reputation you have with other people. Are you a good secret keeper, right? Do you keep certain information confident, which creates trust? Or if they say something off the record, does that just become fair game simply because you heard it, right? When it wasn't intended to be shared. Some people have a problem with that, and okay, maybe they shouldn't be a journalist then. But that kind of trust is significant. All right, it's significant for interviewers, interviewees, for journalists. But to be a research scholar, right? You could be interviewing people for any number of research interests. Some of them could be quite personal in nature, and you need to be a trustworthy individual with that information. And finally, I said training, experience, reputation, and best practices. How about that? So not just following training, but seeking out and attempting to acquire the best training, the ultimate training. Like, what is the most successful techniques I can utilize? So we have a set of best practices we're working on borrowing from, okay? Courtesy of a couple of scholars, and so we are on the road to success there. Through the first 2 chapters, Lee Potter is describing what makes someone a good interviewer. I'm constantly reminded of my stepfather, Stan Litz. Especially when Lee Potter on page 20 writes, quote, the sort of person who gets on with people and is interested in everybody and everything, end quote. A couple of terms come to mind to describe the type of individual. Something like a wallflower, someone able to kind of absorb, but also maybe a gadfly, someone able to kind of create culture in a kind of conversational setting. Stan, associate producer for The Price is Right. And one of his main tasks is interviewing hundreds of people every day and then gauging whether or not they will be good contestants. So it sounds like Stan is an extrovert by trade, right? And if not trade, if it seems to come naturally, if he seems to gain momentum through it, then that's likely a sign, not simply that he's an extrovert by trade, but that's his natural personality type. And for extroverts versus introverts, engaging, connecting with people, interacting with people, holding conversations, socializing is a form of personal recharge for them. Whereas introverts would tend to feel more sort of spent or drained by those kinds of encounters, and thus need isolated or individual or private time, right, me time, in order to recharge those batteries, in order to, gain back that forward momentum, either, cognitively, mentally, or sort of professionally, right, socially even. Good stuff. By far one of the best interviews I've seen. Seems to be in his nature, as I said. If it's in his nature, then he likely would sort of be understood as more of an extrovert. He engaged with lay people, celebrities alike, the same. Do you think being a great interview, here's the question, is learned like a musician or artist? Or do you think being a great interviewer is learned, or like a musician or artist is a natural ability enhanced with practice? And this is all of life in a nutshell, right? It can be natural, and they're going to have the easiest time being successful in those modes of operation. But it could even be less frequent, right? That the best interviewers are naturally outgoing extroverts. It just might be much easier for them, and so they find a higher frequency of success. But you also need training, and it also can be trained. Take it back to that question. This is why I posed this question. I think I love that we were all over the map on our responses in week 1 discussion, but this idea of faking passion, all right, my response to someone else's response was, wouldn't consider it always necessarily an unethical practice, because sometimes you just may lack passion, but you're pursuing a deeper ability to think, speak, communicate, articulate an idea, a concept, a profession, and so on. So it can be natural, less frequently, but also trained, like public speaking, right? Like public speaking. Communication competency, spoiler alert, is one of our educational goals in the communication media and ethics degree at MacU. And so communication competency, increasing our communication competency, is a goal from day one. And mastering techniques, including interviewing and communication of all forms, will help us improve in that direction. Uh-oh. Let me jump down. Let me jump to the next book. Goodson, Uprising. When Goodson writes about the Boomer Coalition having no apparent leader on page 2, I wonder how important is a leader for movements such as public health awareness. It makes me think of, you said public health awareness. It makes me think of, say, Bernie Sanders. He kind of became a face or a voice for this movement about people that, taking care of people, some of these, use like a dirty term, socialist type ideas, right? It doesn't mean people want to subscribe to socialism, I don't think, in any way. America, the U.S. is in danger of that. There is no danger of us really falling all the way into that type of collective practice, but there are intrinsic values in those types of communal experiences. All right. Just as there are values to a free market, right? If the starter of the movement or a leader had been identifiable, would that have affected the way the campaign played out? Now, I'm just guessing here. We're talking about the 2006 election. I don't know. It's not clear. Oh, the Boomer Coalition. I'm sorry. Referencing directly the book. But this makes me think about when you have a leader or a figurehead for a movement or an idea, it tends to translate more. People are always looking to personify their ideas and beliefs and values into people. This is how our sort of political system becomes the way it is, right? Trump may not, President Donald J. Trump may not embody all of the values of his constituents, but on the campaign trail, he did a better job of articulating the feelings and the concerns and the fears of certain states and certain demographics and certain constituents better than his opponent. All right, and so they could relate more to him, including through his style of vernacular and his kind of politically incorrect way of speaking with and about and to others, as somehow more less disingenuous and thus more trustworthy, right? And it was bing bang boom, and he just want to make America great again. If a movement is part of a marketing strategy, then if a movement is part of a marketing strategy, and many movements are taking place in this very movement-excited generation, then how do you make your own movement stand out? That's the $1 million question, right? I guess a $1 billion question. 1 trillion Bitcoin question. Will it become cliche with so many people making the effort to start one, right? We're all trying to start a cultural movement here and spark things. Sometimes I feel that. Do you feel me? Sometimes I see people, and we just finished, for some of us, about half of us, studying integrated marketing communication, IMCs. This idea of this interpersonal setting, or this kind of tiered system of relating to people to encourage them to invest in our products or whatever. And I think about these Facebook videos is where I see it the most, of people selling certain types of products, health products, maybe beauty products, and so on. And when I see it happening over and over and over and over and over and over again, they're all competing with each other, essentially, it seems. And some are pretty decent at it, some are very bad at it, some are pretty campy, but then there's still a kind of enduring quality. But all of it is about generating money and sort of exploiting your digital connections to do so. I understand what Megan is suggesting here when she asks, will it become cliched with so many people trying to spark a cultural movement? Or, let me tell you this, and I go visit a larger city, walk around, visit a city like Philadelphia, the population density is out of control, and there's so many people everywhere. You start to take on that macro versus micro perspective and feel like we're all just ants scurrying around again, and it's hard to reignite that passion to spark a cultural movement, right, and embody that American dream. So maybe but we must prevail, right? Or I don't know. I got lost in thought there, so obviously not hard to tell and not hard to do that. So we're gonna be right back. Final thoughts, final questions. Com 4603.